invocation that Mel and Adams will present.
All right, let's pray. Father, we thank you for the privilege we have to be Americans. Thank you for this event. Thank you for all the candidates who are running. And Lord, we just pray that you will give us insights today, help us to select the best candidate. And we pray, Lord, that you'll help us to win this fall. And so, God, pour out your blessings on us today. We give you thanks in Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you, Melvin. And I will stand for the pledge. This time,
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Then we have our guest candidates, Ed Gillespie, Denver Riggleman, Corey Stewart, and Frank West. And welcome to all of you that are guests for the first time to join us. And we hope that you'll come and keep up the good work throughout the year because we've got a busy one. It's almost another repeat of last year. It's essential that we come out today and welcome everybody, that we also learn more about our candidates. That'll help us make choices June the 13th at the primary. And I'm just going to say one little thing here about how important it is that we all tune up, tune in, and pay attention to what's going to be going on between now and June, because we do have to beat the Democrats in November. Their two candidates are Perriello and Northam. And we all from the 5th District know what we got with Perriello, but we were able to make him a one-term Tommy. So I want you to remember those 2 years and also recall your memories of Mr. Northam being Mr. McAuliffe's left hand.
I'm not going to take any time, just want to say again, thank you so much for being here. And thank you especially to our moderator who has taken his lunch break to be with us and facilitate this event today. That is Commonwealth Attorney for Franklin County, A.J. Dudley.
And the Oscar goes to wrong sheet. My Faye Dunaway ditty left my side. Thank you all to members of the committee for putting together this event. We are obviously here to learn more about these candidates. We've decided that it would be best to have some structure. There's a limitation on time. There are 4 candidates. And the way to accomplish that is to have some rules. And those rules will be the following. We're going to have an opening section of opening remarks by each of the 4 candidates. Each candidate will be given 4 minutes each to speak. They are going to commence speaking in alphabetical order. Then we're going to have a question and answer section. The questions have been pre-selected by a panel of people. There should be time for 4 questions, possibly 5, depending on the length of the answers. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to give a response to each question. There is no allotment for questions from the floor, no rebuttal, no discussion. The sheriff is here to help enforce those rules. Senator Stanley will probably defend you.
First Amendment, man.
Ms. Carter, Darlene, who you all met just a minute ago, is going to be our timekeeper, and she's going to have 3 different cards. They're color-coded. Green indicates that there's 1 minute left. Yellow indicates that there is 30 seconds left, and red indicates stop. And just to avoid anybody throwing this excuse out there later, do any of our candidates have any issues with being colorblind? They also have numbers written on them in that event. With regard to those questions, we're also going to do the same thing. We're going to do it alphabetically. However, each candidate is going to loop around. So, for example, we're going to start with Mr. Gillespie. He'll answer first on the first question, and then we'll move on down the line alphabetically, and Mr. Gillespie will be last in so forth and so on. It'll make sense as we do it. We plan to stop the Q&A segment at about 11:50, 11:51. That's in order to give time for a closing remark section, which will also be 2 minutes per candidate. And for that, instead of going from my right to my left, we're going to go from my left to my right. So we're going to close it out in the opposite way. That should conclude the meeting at about noon, which I understand is our target time, so folks have to be in different places. I've got to get back to work myself.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to thank all of you for hosting this great event this morning. And I did come up last night. I'm not a morning person, so I'm not coming up at dark 30. I was unable to. Usually, Maria, my wife, who's been married for 22 years, is able to come with me, but it is a school day, and we've got 2 boys. They're 15 and 17 years old. They're in John Paul the Great Catholic School in Woodbridge. So I'm glad to be here because the protesters aren't here today. And they've been yeah, that's right. They've been following me around, as some of you might know. It started in Charlottesville. I was proud to be there with the citizens of Charlottesville in defending the statue of Robert E. Lee. That statue has been there since 1924, placed in trust by the citizens of Charlottesville to that city. Then, just a few weeks ago, 3 members of that city council voted to remove that statue. You know, my opponent here, Mr. Gillespie, said it was a local issue. Didn't want to do anything about it. I went down there. I went down there with a conservative black activist. We had took a video, and we were mobbed by 100+ radical left nutcases. But I didn't back down, and I never back down from any position like that. We gotta stop backing down as conservatives. Now, some people might say that this is not an important issue. And of course, there are a lot of big issues facing this Commonwealth. The economy, of course. Jobs, of course. But for too long, for 40 to 50 years, every time the left has challenged us, we've backed down. And it's time to take our Commonwealth, our culture, back. And that is what I'm going to do as governor of this state. So last Saturday, again, I stood up there in Richmond this time with victims whose loved ones were murdered by illegal aliens. And you know what? Those same despicable lefty commies showed up in Richmond to protest not just me, but the victims of those crimes. Now imagine that. Now think about that for a moment. Since 2007, when I put in place the toughest crackdown on illegal immigration anywhere in the United States, we have handed more than 7,500 criminal illegal aliens over to ICE for deportation. 7,500. Our violent crime rate dropped by 48.7%. Now that's something, by the way, that the Washington Post called a coincidence. Now I think it's an important issue. I think it's an important issue to the Commonwealth, and I think it's an important issue to all of us because the rule of law is the most fundamental thing that is needed for a successful society. In fact, it's the basis of Western civilization. Now there are going to be a lot of issues, but I want to let you know something about my character. I have won 4 countywide elections in Prince William County. It's a bit like being a big city mayor. I'm elected by all 454,000 residents of Prince William County. It's 54% minority, and with 60 to 40 for Obama. But I've stood it, and I've won by increasing margins. The way I've done it, frankly, I've been a ruthless, absolutely ruthless, conservative campaigner. I've been able to get things done. I've been able to win in a liberal area. And I'm going to be able to win the governorship, and I'm going to stand up for you. There will never be any doubt about that. I ask for your vote. Thanks a lot, everybody.
On to our first question. Just a reminder, each candidate is given 2 minutes to give their answer, and we're going to do it in the same order that we did the opening remarks. The candidates were not given any idea what these questions were going to be in advance. I just want to put that out there. So question one, providing educational opportunities, primary and secondary, is a critical government function. What are the highlights of your agenda regarding education? As part of your answer, you may wish to emphasize your beliefs about standards, funding, and choice.
Thank you. We desperately need education reform at the K-12 level, the community college level, and at the four-year college and university level. If we give parents greater control over our children's education and more children and more choices in that process, our public schools will improve as a result. Because we all know competition is good for everybody. It's good for Coke and Pepsi, it's good for Democrats and Republicans, it'll be good for the public schools. And so I support education savings accounts, I support more public charter schools in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We have 9 all across Virginia right now. North Carolina, across our border, who we're in competition with all the time, has 167. We need more opportunity scholarship funds, and we need for our homeschool children to be able to participate in our public sports programs. And as a governor, I will sign a TiVo bill. We've also got to have more skills training in our high schools. And I know that's an issue here in Franklin County, a lot of steps being taken, and I think that's good to make sure that our high school students who graduate, who are not going to go on to four-year college and university, have the skills to get good paying jobs. We've got a skills gap in the Commonwealth we've got to close. That's true of our community colleges as well. On our four-year colleges and universities, the governor appoints every member of the boards of visitors for every one of our colleges and universities. When I appoint them, they will understand that their responsibility is to the students and the taxpayers and the parents, not to the faculties and the administrations of these schools, and their job is to hold down costs and make college more affordable for more Virginians. Now let me just take a little moment here and talk about the statute, because I oppose removing the statute, all historical statutes in the Commonwealth. And I've made that clear. Someone went so far as to mock up a Washington Post headline that said I'm in favor of removing it. Not true. Don't believe everything you see on the internet. And let me say this though, you know, if the state intervenes now, I think those 3 city council members who voted to spend $300,000 on that instead of on teachers or police or paving roads, they should be voted out of office. But if the state intervenes here and says that Charlottesville, we're going to have the General Assembly and the governor intervene and say they can't, there will be nothing to stop a future Democratic General Assembly or Democratic governor from saying that we're going to require all cities and counties to take down all statutes across the Commonwealth. We've got to adhere to our conservative principles. And I think those city council members should be voted out of office for voting for that. But at the same time, to have the state come in and say we're going to mandate to the cities and counties what they can do relative to their statutes sets a very dangerous precedent for us for the future that I think would be a mistake. Thank you.
Well, I've been chairman of the Board of Supervisors for 10 years. I've been governing that county for 10 years. During that time, Prince William County has become the second largest school district in the state. We've added another 20 schools. We've got over 90 schools, over 90,000 students. And during that period of time, as we built schools, as we added teachers, I've been able to drop the tax bill in Prince William County. When I took office, it was $4,141, and today it's $4,038, and that is because we've been able to reduce spending in virtually every other area of county government, but put that into building schools, adding police, adding firefighters, and concentrating on the things that are most important, and that's what we've got to do in Virginia. It's a matter of priorities. It's not a matter of spending more money. And one thing we've got to do, not just with K through 12, but with higher ed as well, and that is any school that takes state funding needs to be audited, and we need to make sure that we're getting the best bang for the buck that we can out of our tax dollars. Now, that leads me into another issue. So according to Mr. Gillespie, apparently, it's just fine. It's just fine if Charlottesville takes it down. He's not going to do a single thing as governor to stop that locality from taking down a real Virginia, a real American hero, Robert E. Lee. Now here's the thing, folks. If you're okay with that, how about this? Those same members of that city council said, guess who's next? That's right, they're taking down the statues of Thomas Jefferson. Where do we stop? Where do we stand up and have the guts to stand up to the left and stop the left from taking over our Commonwealth and stand up for our heritage? As governor, I'm going to do just that. You may not agree with me, but at least you know you're going to get the courage of my convictions. I will stand up for conservative values, even when they're controversial. I will stand up for you. I will, as I've stood up
for Donald Trump when he was running for president, which some of the members of this panel did not. Thank you.
I think I speak for all of us when I'd like to thank the candidates for keeping Darlene in her chair. Not once did she jump out. Everybody, 2 minutes goes by very quickly, and I appreciate you all doing your best to stay right within that limitation. The next question we're going to do, as I said, we're going to go in the same direction, but Mr. Riggleman will start with you and we'll come back around in this way, so Mr. Bliss can lead in this one. Question number 2. How will you confront the sanctuary concept as it relates to Virginia as a whole, specific communities or cities throughout Virginia, or at Virginia's public colleges or universities?
So 10 years ago, Brittany Binger, James City County, Virginia, 16-year-old girl. She's abducted by an illegal alien. She's raped, mutilated, and murdered. Do you know that that person hasn't been prosecuted yet? Because we don't have politicians and we don't have a government that's willing to take on a tough issue. That's wrong. And you know, when somebody says, Corey, why are you so mean? When you're talking, you know, some people say, well, I'm anti-immigrant. My wife's an immigrant. But this is about law enforcement. And the first job of any level of government is to protect the lives, the safety, and the rights of its citizens. Now others talk, I deliver. It's easy to talk tough on illegal immigration. I've done it. I put in place the policy that was copied by Arizona to great effect. And I want that throughout the entire state of Virginia. And I do have a question for Mr. Gillespie when he gets up here. Would he support my policy that I've implemented in Prince William County and extend it statewide to 87G to make sure that every person who is brought into any jail in the Commonwealth, that we check their immigration status, and if they've committed a crime and they're here illegally, they will be deported back to their country of origin. So on 287G, that's what we're going to do that. Ending sanctuary cities, absolutely. There are 599 funding that are provided to most localities across the state. My position is this. If you refuse to cooperate with federal and state authorities in removing criminal illegal aliens, we are going to cut off all 599 funding until you get your house in order and start cooperating to defend the citizens of this Commonwealth. Thank you.
You know, the choice in this election could not be more clear, and that was made evident when Ralph Northam cast a deciding vote to kill a bill in the state Senate that would have banned sanctuary cities in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And the fact is, that was Delegate Poindexter's leadership on that. We need to make sure that our cities and counties comply with federal law, that they turn people over to ICE, and I do think they should participate in the 287G program. We have got to make the Commonwealth safer, and it is one of the principal core function of any government. Tom Perriello and Ralph Northam are in favor of sanctuary cities in the Commonwealth of Virginia. That is not good for Virginia. They also support providing state-issued driver's licenses to illegal immigrants. And at the same time, they're in favor of repealing our common sense voter ID laws. They've got their priorities completely wrong. When it comes to our colleges and universities, the fact is, like I said, it's not affordable enough for our Virginia citizens and for our Virginia students. They have to be first. Their interests have to be put first. And I do not support in-state tuition for illegal immigrants. And I think that's important that we make sure that college and university, public colleges and universities in Virginia remain more affordable for the people of Virginia and for the citizens of Virginia. The fact is, I'm the son of an immigrant. My father came to this country from Ireland. He was 8 years old because his father, my grandfather, found work in America. My grandfather was a janitor. My parents didn't go to college, and I was the first generation on either side of my family to get a college degree. I'm blessed by the blessings of liberty here in America. But my father came through Ellis Island, came here legally, and we can be a Commonwealth that welcomes people here legally and protects the safety and the integrity of the Virginia people. We can do that at the same time. Thank you.
The sanctity of the electoral process itself speaks to what level of proof you would require before someone is allowed to register to vote. For example, would you require a birth certificate or some sort of naturalization certificate? And then relatedly, do you have any thoughts on what type of proof you would require at the ballot box for someone who is registered to vote?
Well, absolutely, and it is absolutely true. There is voter fraud going on in the Commonwealth of Virginia. There's no question about it. In Prince William County, we've had people who tried to register to vote, and it does not require proof of citizenship. That's got to be fixed, number one. Number two, illegal aliens and lefties have found many ways around our voter identification laws, especially through absentee voting. It does not even require, not only does it not require a identification, it doesn't even require a signature. And that is because our governor has appointed 2 members to the Board of Elections, the State Board of Elections, who said that because the General Assembly is silent on this, that you can order an absentee ballot even without a signature. And a lot of them were cast, folks. A lot of them were cast. It's a real problem. And talking about illegal immigration, I want to go back to that. Never answered my question about whether or not you would mandate 287G and every locality in this state, which I definitely would. Let me tell you something about this man's position on this. In 2013, when the pressure was on, he backed off. And the question was, well, what are you going to do about the Gang of Eight? Do you support the Gang of Eight? That was amnesty for 11 million illegal aliens, folks. He supported it. Mr. Gillespie supported that. So he can say whatever he wants here in front of you, but when the pressure is on, he backs off. We need someone who's going to be willing to stand up strong, regardless of the audience, and who's going to take on the left. Because we need to remove from our community anybody who is here illegally, especially if they've committed a crime. That will be my #1 job as governor, is to keep you, your families, safe and to protect your rights. Thank you.
I began by talking about the high stakes of this election. And one of the stakes of this election is control of the State Board of Elections and making sure that we have a state board and a majority that requires our registrars to enforce the voter laws and to clean up the voting rolls. And like I said, when you have Tom Perriello and Ralph Northam, left and lefter on the other side, who are supportive of issuing state identification driver's licenses to illegal immigrants and at the same time supporting repeal of our common sense voter ID laws that have been upheld not once but twice by federal courts, that shows you they've got the exact wrong priorities. And yes, you need to be a citizen to vote in Virginia. We need to require that, and we need to have that, and the voter ID law is something that we have got to stand strong for. The fact is, let me just say, I ran for the United States Senate in 2014, got very close, lost by a very narrow margin, but I ran on immigration policy that looked nothing like the Gang of Eight bill, and you can see that and learn about that more. So we've got to enforce our laws. The State Board of Elections is at play in this election, and I will support legislation and sign legislation like we talked about here earlier in terms of enforcing our immigration laws, and that includes the voter ID laws in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
The ability to get from point A to point B in an efficient manner affects our quality of life, our commercial success, our cost of living. What prominence will improving transportation hold in your administration, and what are your plans in that regard?
I can make one point on the previous question before talking about transportation. That is, in terms of these choices, you may have seen that Governor McAuliffe vetoed a bill that Senator Obenshain had introduced that required an investigation of those jurisdictions in the Commonwealth where there are more registered voters than eligible voters. I would sign that bill. Secondly, on transportation, this is a critical issue all across the Commonwealth. When you're in Northern Virginia, Hampton Roads, Southwest, here, the fact is that I would say in Northern Virginia, or in Southwest Virginia, it's an hour between towns, and in Northern Virginia, it's an hour between towns, but the towns are 5 miles apart. Two different kinds of problems that we've got to fix, and we've got to put more money into roads and less money into bike paths. We need to make a priority of congestion relief and economic lifelines to parts of the Commonwealth that need more roads built. And that's a question of prioritization and getting more money into the transportation system. A couple ways we can do that. In Florida, Governor Rick Scott, he segregates money that he takes from the federal government into different pots, and some of those pots don't have any federal money. They're able to get money out the door faster because it's only state money. We need to do more of that. But we also need to get more money into Virginia from what we send to Washington, D.C., and we need to spend it more as we see fit. I will be able to work with a Republican House and a Republican Senate and a Republican administration, including Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao, who I know very, very well, to get more of our tax dollars into Virginia, our transportation dollars. When I call the Trump administration, I will get my calls returned because I was not fired for incompetence by the Trump folks. So thank you.
Well, the next time I'd like to be sitting right next to Ed, and we can just have a two-way discussion. Yes, I was in fact fired from the Trump campaign. And by the way, I don't know if you can say fired, because I never took a dime. I did it all on my own dime. I traveled all across the state. I live in a very diverse county, and I knew that when I agreed, when Mr. Trump asked me to be his chairman, I was going to take some blowback for it, but I did it. And I traveled all across Virginia for 10 months on my own dime. Took a lot of my own time. As he was raising money for himself and campaigning for himself, I was campaigning for Mr. Trump. And in the aftermath of the Access Hollywood scandal, as the establishment Republicans like Mr. Gillespie pulled away from Mr. Trump, in fact, he was one of the first Republicans in the country to pile on President Trump. He called him offensive. He called Mr. Trump offensive and demeaning. And meanwhile, as I stood up for President Trump against RNC and got fired for it, I stayed loyal. I stayed loyal. And that's the difference. He has no courage. I do. Now, he also tells you things that just aren't true. He said he didn't support the Gang of Eight. Well, guess who said this on June 25th, 2013 on CNBC? Referring to the Gang of Eight, amnesty for 12 million illegal aliens. Mr. Gillespie, it's good policy and it's good politics. Is that who you want for your governor? Is that who you want to stand up for conservative beliefs? Is that somebody who, when they're challenged by the left, is going to stand up? It's somebody who kneels down, folks.
Is that transportation?
And I am going to be strong. And I have governed Prince William County. We put $300 million worth of our own transportation funding into the road infrastructure, the biggest program in the state. And taxes in Prince William County have gone down. Thank you.
Recent headlines refer to the opioid problem as a crisis. What are your thoughts as to how state resources can best be allocated to confront this crisis? What are your thoughts as it regards to prevention versus punishment or some combination? Also, do you have any thoughts with regard to additional regulation?
We face a true epidemic and a crisis in the Commonwealth when it comes to opioid and heroin addiction. And we've got to address it. The fact is, on average, 3 Virginians every day die from overdose from opioid and heroin abuse. And so there are a number of things that we've got to do. It is a criminal justice issue. It is a public health issue. It's a workforce issue. I was talking to someone who does placement for different firms, and they said that 70% of the job applicants cannot pass a drug screen today to get into the workforce. I've spent time in our jails with recovering heroin addicts, and the fact is our jails today are becoming essentially recovery units and mental health facilities. We've got to address that. And there's a number of things I think we can do in terms of earlier intervention and education. We need enforcement. We need to work with the doctors and the drugstores and others in terms of not making opioids so available on the street. And we have got to also make sure that we are enforcing the existing laws and that the sheriffs and the police have the resources they need. I was very disappointed when Governor McAuliffe cut the funding when we were dealing with this budget shortfall for police and deputies. That's the exact wrong priority. We need to make sure that we are enforcing our existing laws, but we also need to make sure that we are educating people sooner about the dangers of opioid addiction, that we are getting the support we need for recovery so that people can get out of recovery, and we've got to work with doctors and pharmaceuticals to make sure that there's not as much access, free access, to these pain-killing drugs that are so addictive.
Don't worry, Ed, I'm not attacking you this time. So, since 2007, we've had 4,000 deaths in the Commonwealth due to opioid abuse. 4,000. Now, here's the real scary thing. 4 out of 5 opioid addicts, heroin addicts, 4 out of 5, start their addiction through legal pharmaceuticals. One of the problems that we have, not just in Virginia, but across the country, is the overprescription of strong painkillers. And undernutrition is what we will work together on this. This has been a problem in Prince William County. We're working together not just with our police department, our sheriff's department, our jail, but also with social services and community services board to treat the entire problem, because there are a lot of underlying causes to it. I'm going to get back, and that kind of leads me to the previous question on transportation. The only way we're going to make room for things like treating heroin addiction and K through 12 and higher ed and transportation is we've got to get the state's budget under control, and that's not happening right now. And the reason is because Medicaid spending is out of control. Do you know that in 1985, Medicaid accounted for 5% of the state's budget? Today it's 22%, and it's growing. We need not only to support President Trump in completely eliminating Obamacare altogether, by the way, but we've got to block grant Medicaid, cap it at 20% of the state's budget, design a system for Virginians, by Virginians, that contains the cost. And when we do that, we will make room, not just for massive tax cuts in the Commonwealth, but for better addiction treatment for heroin addicts and other state priorities. Thank you.
You are in the county where the WBJ shootings took place. A license plate reader was used by law enforcement to track that suspect. Recently, the General Assembly considered legislation asserting privacy interests that would limit how long law enforcement can retain license plate information and therefore use it as part of investigations. What are your thoughts with regard to this topic?
Well, during my 10 years as chairman, we've done a lot of things on crime. The first, we cracked down on illegal aliens, crime rate went down. We've also been adding police officers. Now we have a total of 660 police officers in the police department. We've added about 160 since I've been chairman. And we've done that, by the way, by focusing resources down on the things that count the most. Public safety is among them: public safety, transportation, public safety. And we've done that while reducing average tax bills, because we've been able to cut the garbage out of the budget and focus on the key priorities of government. And the first among those is keeping you safe. Now, with regard to, I'm very concerned about this issue, and I'll tell you that we have to establish this in the Commonwealth as a policy that data is not retained for very long at all. And we can keep our community safe without retaining that information. Because if you think that's scary, that they can track your license plate, we're about to put body cameras in our police department. Now, most of the other police departments around the state are in the process of doing the same thing. Body cameras are very sophisticated now. We can do facial recognition. Now think about that. The police officer's walking down the street, grabs your face, grabs your identity, and suddenly they know where you are at any particular time. Very frightening. And so that data must be destroyed promptly. It cannot be kept very long at all. We're going to need the help of the Commonwealth. The locality is going to need the help of the Commonwealth to require that data not be stored very long. Currently, state law actually requires police departments to retain that data for a certain period of time. So we need to change the law. We need to make sure that we protect. Yes, we have to keep you safe, but we also have to protect your privacy.
This challenge of getting the balance right between our personal liberties and privacy and security goes back to our very founding. And it is challenged consistently throughout our history by advances in technology, and we're seeing that here today. Obviously, I talk to Commonwealth's attorneys and sheriffs, police all across the Commonwealth all the time as part of my policy development working group, and this is a significant issue. And I think it's important, that we distinguish between kind of the random recording of driver's licenses and scanners like that, as opposed to the body cameras, where our police and sheriffs and the deputies, they do want to make sure that we're able to keep that because it often protects them in defense against false charges of police brutality. So we've got to get that balance right to distinguish between them. This is going to take us a while to figure it out. I'm not sure what the right period of time is that you hold on to data, digital information about license scanners as opposed to the body camera digital information that is relative to a police arrest, but I do think that it's important that we have some uniformity around that, and I do think it's the appropriate role of the state, of the General Assembly, and of the governor to come up with a policy on this, and that's going to be a top priority for me as a governor, the next governor, because we've got to get that right.
Well, I think there's one thing you probably know about me. I am a fighter. I suppose I was a real nice guy when I started, but I've been brutalized by the left in Northern Virginia, and I've fought back, and I fought back successfully. Others talked about cutting spending. I've been able to do it. I've delivered. I've cut $185 million out of our base budget and delivered the largest tax cut in Prince William County history. Average tax bills went down in the first budget that I controlled by an average of $400. We now have the lowest tax bill in Northern Virginia, so much so, we've cut so much, they're down by 30% compared to other jurisdictions. Others talk about funding transportation without increasing taxes. I've been able to deliver that. $300 million worth of our own local funding into local roads in Prince William County. I've been able to do that. Others talk about reducing crime. I've been able to do it. I've been able to do it. In fact, the crime rate in Prince William County is at an all-time low since we started taking down these statistics. A lot of the crimes, in fact, a lot of illegal aliens not only left Prince William County, they went to bordering counties where their crime rates went up. Imagine that. I wonder why. Others talk about implementing a tough crackdown on illegal immigration. I delivered. I was able to do it. In fact, it was such a tough policy, it was copied by the state of Arizona. Others talk about creating jobs. I've done it. Prince William County is #1 in job growth in the Commonwealth of Virginia. It's #3 in the United States for job growth. And that's because we've been able to get off the back of businesses. I've cut in half the amount of time that it takes to open or expand a business in Prince William County. They know we're business friendly. And that's what I'm going to do, folks, for the Commonwealth of Virginia. If you want somebody who doesn't just talk, but somebody who's been able to deliver, someone who's been able to reduce taxes, somebody who's been able to reduce spending, someone who's been able to reduce crime, and someone who will never, ever back down to the left, then I am your candidate. And I've done it while winning in the second largest county in the state 4 times, 454,000 people, and I continue to deliver. I'd be proud to serve you as your nominee for governor, and I'd be proud to serve the citizens of this Commonwealth. Thank you all very much.